We usually confuse an absence of noise with tranquility. You see someone like Michael Corleone as a genius at the game, an expert who has wonderfully developed the skill of not showing his feelings at all. You have great respect for his self-control, the way he remains unyielding even when the situation around him is terribly hot. You think that this is the quality of a leader, a person who has finally gained control over his feelings. But your thoughts are wrong. You are thinking that there is still a human being, a silent saver behind those eyes. What if the Stoicism is not the morning mask he wears each day? What if it is the soundless of an abandoned structure? He has not tamed his character. He has peeled it off like skin. He has seen his shock and horror, his ability to laugh, and his lightheartedness, his very persona, as the weak points in the support of his role. He did not only set his time for sacrifice, he practically wiped himself out to turn into a tool. But when you transform yourself into an impeccable robot, who will then be the one to savor the life that you have created? There's a seductive power in that vacancy, isn't there? You felt it too, the desperate desire to be unshakable. Imagine a day where your procrastination doesn't exist because the you that wants to play or rest has been permanently muted. In this state, your mission becomes the only variable. You aren't distracted by an ego that needs validation or a heart that feels the weight of guilt. You become an avatar of pure, cold utility. We often call this peak performance, or the grind. But for Michael, it is a total biological realignment. He identifies humor as a leak in the seal. He sees spontaneous joy as a dangerous distraction from the cold horizon. To be the perfect instrument of his legacy, he must treat his own soul like redundant software that needs to be uninstalled to save disk space. It is undeniably effective. It is surgically clean. It's the highest form of self-discipline we can imagine. But as you watch him succeed where every other human would have surely crumbled, you have to ask yourself, at what point does the mission stop serving the man and start consuming the host? And if the host is gone, what is actually left to protect? This consumption isn't localized to the screen. It's the quiet background radiation of your own life. You might think this is a study of a distant criminal, a world far removed from your own quiet ambitions. But look closer at the trade you make every Monday morning. You call it professionalism. You call it focus. In reality, it is the same slow-motion suicide. You have learned to treat your own spontaneous impulses like a manager treats a disruptive employee. Every time you suppress a laugh to appear more authoritative or trade a personal passion for a more marketable skill, you are executing the same strategy. You are pruning away the you to make room for the function. We live in a culture that worships the purpose-driven life. We are told that the mission, the career, the legacy, the safety of the unit is the only metric that matters. But we rarely discuss the math of that exchange. When the mission becomes the absolute priority, the individual living it becomes an obstacle to its success. You start to view your own vulnerability as a security risk. Your empathy becomes a tactical error. Your personality is no longer a garden to be tended. It is a forest that must be cleared to make room for a fortress. You are building something monumental, a career, a home, a reputation. And to do it, you have refined yourself into a precision instrument. You have optimized your sleep, your social circle, and your very thoughts. You are winning. You are more productive than you have ever been. But there is a silent, growing cost to this optimization that you haven't accounted for yet. You've successfully cleared the forest of the walls, but have you noticed what happens to the air when the trees are gone? The air becomes thin because you've removed the lungs of your life. You likely believe this erasure is temporary. You tell yourself that once the empire is secure, once the promotion is landed or the legacy is cemented, you'll invite the old you back into the room. You imagine a future where you can simply take off the heavy armor and be human again. But look at the architecture of Michael's silence. He didn't just put his soul in storage, he paved over it. The terrifying truth about self-optimization is that the off switch is often the first thing you uninstall. When you treat your personality as an obstacle for long enough, your brain eventually agrees with you. It stops producing the noise of joy or the interference of intimacy because those signals are no longer recognized as useful. You become a permanent resident of your function. You have achieved total competence, but you are now a stranger to the person who started the journey. You've successfully built the fortress to protect your world, but in the process, you've become a gargoyle on the wall, stony, immovable, and utterly alone. Is a victory still a victory if there's no one left inside to celebrate it? Or have you unknowingly spent your life building a very expensive tomb? This tomb isn't just for you, it's the new family home. You tell yourself that every piece of your soul you discard is a necessary payment toward their safety. You call it a noble sacrifice. But here is the reframing you aren't ready for. You didn't sacrifice for them, you committed a robbery. You stole the person they actually loved and replaced him with a high-functioning statue. You think you're being a hero by becoming a machine of pure logic and security. But your family doesn't need a machine. They need a witness. They need someone who can actually feel the weight of their lives. By the time you've optimized yourself into the ultimate provider, you've become a stranger in your own living room. You are the wall that keeps the world out, but you're also the wall that keeps the light from getting in. You've become a protector that no one wants to be protected by, a guardian whose presence feels more like an indictment than a comfort. You've won the war, you've secured the legacy, and you've built the perfect defense. But look at the faces of the people you claim to serve. Do they look safe, or do they look like they are living in a morgue? If the version of you they loved is dead, then who exactly is left to inhabit the peace you fought so hard to create? This void is the ultimate destination of total competence. When you successfully erase everything that makes you unpredictable, your flaws, your laughter, your messy human desires, you don't just become efficient, you become an object. And the tragedy of being an object is that objects are designed to be used, not to be loved. You've spent your life striving for a perfection that is, in reality, a form of slow-motion suicide. You wanted to be indispensable, so you became a function. You wanted to be powerful, so you became a mechanism. But machines don't experience the legacy they build. You look in the mirror and see a masterpiece of discipline, but you are staring at a hollowed-out monument to a person who no longer exists. This is the hidden cost of your perfect professionalism. You are winning the game, but there is no player left behind the controls. You have achieved the erasure of the self to save the world around you, only to realize that a world saved by an object is a world that has already lost everything that mattered. You didn't just build a fortress, you became the stone it was made from. And stone, no matter how grand, feels nothing when the sun finally shines on it. You are finally perfect, you are finally complete, and you are finally dead.